Welcome to 1% Better, where our target audience is any human being who wants to improve. And today I went out and got somebody that I'm very impressed by. Somebody that lives life on purpose. I don't see any accidents in this man's path, but we're going to try to find out. Let's waste no time in welcoming in Jeremy Sheetinger. Jeremy, how are you, my man?
I'm doing great, dude. Thanks for having me on, Joe. I really appreciate it.
This is awesome, and I'm gonna say right off the bat, you had some kind of advantage being born with that last name because you go Sheets. You go right to Sheets, right?
Absolutely. I was just telling you, man, my running joke is debt collectors call me Jeremy. That's how I know exactly who to hang up on.
Unbelievable.
So, yeah, if you drop it, it's a Sheets automatically, no doubt.
Oh, got it. So we'll go Sheets from here on out. I'm Joe Ferraro on 1% Better, and he's Jeremy, but we'll call him Sheets. I think when you go to order a coffee, that's got to be what you have in the cup.
No brainer. Yeah, no brainer. I'm the only one in the cafe. That's for sure.
I love it. So what I want to do is dive in and let the world know. First of all, what do you do for a living?
Yeah. So right now I work for the American Baseball Coaches Association. I serve as the college division liaison, and so I service Division II, Division III, NAI, and junior college programs, and basically work with them on legislation and making sure that their organizational committees are staying together and we're keeping the pulse on each level, and then where we can step in as ABCA and help them facilitate any type of changes within the NCAA or the NAI or the NJCAA. I also run our podcast, Calls from the Clubhouse, run our Twitter account, and host our hashtag ABCA chat. It's a bi-weekly Twitter chat. And then also organize and run our Barnstormers clinics across the country. So pretty active, but mainly do a lot of my work just through the ABCA.
Wow, there's a lot there because the 1% Better audience right now is a lot of coaches, some baseball, some other sports, but it really is focused on leaders. It's people that are interested in kind of getting strategies to get better. So that's why I wanted to bring you on. And now the job that you just described is something that if you're not involved in sports, there's so much to kind of glean from it as well. So first of all, liaison. I mean, that's a great word. And it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was a position that was created. There was a need there, and you got a chance to fill that.
There was. I appreciate you giving me the chance to talk about it. It's a really cool situation in that the ABCA for the last, before the previous two, but the 20 before that, Dave Kylis was our executive director, and Dave really handled a lot for the association and ran all the Division I legislative stuff, and then stepped in and helped the small schools. But as a former small school guy, there's just so much that goes into each level. Each level is completely different in how things are moved forward and how things are even discussed. So Dave spent a lot of his time with Division I, and rightly so. Craig stepped in as executive director and just really saw the need that we need a small school facilitator, somebody that had a small school background and was passionate about it, understood it, and somebody the coaches could relate to. And honestly, I give you the short version, man. I wasn't interested in the job when it came out, and a couple of the board members really pushed on me a little bit and said, "Hey, we just think that you'd be really good for this. You do have to leave coaching, but it's something you should pursue." And luckily, knock on wood, man, I reached out to Craig and he talked me through the job, and I slept on it, prayed about it over the weekend, and was like, this is a no-brainer. I can't even imagine that a job directly fits. And the cool part about it is, Joe, there was no script. So nobody gave me the playbook as to, hey, this is how you do it. And I was actually reflecting with a coach today. It's been some tears, and it's been a lot of sweat, and it's been a lot of really trying to help the Division II, Division III part of NCAA and the NAI realize that they finally have somebody from the ABCA in this position that is willing to go to bat for them and wants to work hard for them. And it's really turned the corner within the last year. I'm involved with a lot of those conference calls and a lot of those divisional meetings, and really getting our foot in the doors just so we can make sure that every coach that's under our association umbrella has a voice in the room. And it's been really cool, man. I've really enjoyed this position.
Wow, yeah, I can see where the sweat comes in. Where do the tears come in?
Well, when you're as impatient as I am, it's one thing. I pray for patience each day, and the good Lord gives me things to be patient about. And so I kind of banged my head against the wall my first year, because I'm really, hey, come on, championships committee, come on, NCAA committee, come on, just let me in the room, involve me in what you're doing, involve me in your conference calls, just because I know that there's so many coaches, small school guys, that just want to make sure that they're privy to all the information, that they have a voice in the room. And again, now that we created this position, I didn't want to keep sitting on my hands waiting to be included. It's like the kid off on the side, and he's the 11th guy, and they're playing 5-on-5, and he's just like, come on, man, just please let me get in. I know I can drain a three. And I just kept waiting for that opportunity. And yeah, I pouted a few times and got upset a few times, and it's just a matter of I don't like to feel like I'm not fulfilling my job duties, and I want to make sure that if we have the opportunity to just get me in the room, not for me, for our coaches. And I'm telling you, man, it was almost like a snap of a finger. Division 2 attitude completely changes. Now we're involved. Division 3 has always been really positive, and it really even turned a better corner. And the NAI from day one, man, has been 100% wrapped their arms around me and the ABCA and involved us in everything. So it's just really become almost a full circle within a year of complete involvement, complete, again, being privy to the information that we just want to make sure that if we can step in, and we can't do a lot, but if we can step in and we can help or organize or survey or do the things that allow for every coach we represent to have their voice heard, we certainly want to take advantage of that.
Wow. So liaison and podcast host calls from the clubhouse is dynamite. I'm a regular listener. I listened to your last episode, Jerry Weinstein, to end the season, so that was fantastic, as you know. But you're the point guard there. So today I'm playing a little point and I want to get you going a little bit. When you were sitting in a classroom in Kentucky Wesleyan, when you're looking out the window and you doze, you probably didn't doze off.
I might have.
You did. You looked in the other direction. What were you thinking about you would be doing maybe 4 or 5 years from there?
That's a cool. You just put me back in my chair. You know what? I had the dream. Coming out of high school, my goal was to completely be a high school coach and a high school English teacher. And I was just enamored with that. I wanted to teach. I knew I always wanted to be an educator, but I knew I wanted to coach baseball. And I got to college and had a great assistant coach, and he sat down with me and he said, I know you want to coach, and not that there's anything against high school. There's a great opportunity. And he goes, there's a lot more money to be made doing that than there is in college. He's like, but man, I think you'd be great recruiting. I think you'd have a great personality on the road. I think I could see you really flourishing in the college game. And he broke his entire day down for me and his entire summer, and showed me the whole playbook. And I'm like, dude, that's exactly what I want to do. And that's exactly what I should be doing. So I spent my entire college career, and I got hurt my sophomore year. I tore my labrum, had shoulder surgery, and was really never able to truly throw. I was a career DH, and it completely, that whole dream that everyone has in high school. One day some MLB team's going to call me and I'm going to go play for the next 30 years and, retire at 50 like Necro. But that wasn't going to happen, man. And that was what really brought me to reality of, dude, you better start getting your mind right, and you better have a plan on what you're going to do, and you better understand what that's going to really entail. And so actually was kind of the weirdest college experience, man. I didn't go out and play summer baseball in college. I actually coached. So I spent my last 3 years as a college player going out and coaching in the summer and developing a resume and getting, coaching third base at 20, not realizing how fast the game really moves, but really screwing some things up and realizing that, man, I don't have this thing figured out. And so I knew from that moment, man, I was going to coach baseball in some form, shape or form, but I knew that I had to be involved with the game, and I wasn't going to be happy working in a cubicle. I wasn't going to be happy working at a bank. I wasn't going to be happy making a ton of money, but not being involved with baseball. I had to get my hands dirty, and I had to be involved with the game somehow. And it was kind of spelled out for me really plainly, the way I see it now.
Wow. I tell you, in the intro, I could have just said Jeremy Sheetinger, extrovert. And, has it always been that way?
Yeah, no doubt, man. I've certainly don't have a problem talking, but I've always been the vocal guy on any team I've played on. I mean, I'm not afraid to call the team up on me and be right, wrong, or indifferent, and try to rally the troops. I was captain throughout my entire college career, and led the team huddles and did those things. And that's just, I get it honestly. My dad was a professional speaker for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that's the interesting dynamic is, man, I've been up on stages since I was 8, 9, 10 years old. And so it's nothing for me to jump in front of 5,000 people and start talking about something, but that's where you start to see the dynamics of a team. There's certain guys that are just lead by example guys, and you can't even poke them with a hot poker to get them up in front of the group and say anything. And that was just something that was really easy for me to jump up and go, guys, on me. If I go out there and screw up, it's on me. But I want you to know, again, we've got your back. This is what a leader does, that type of thing. And I got no issues doing that.
Wow. Well, anyone listening can benefit from public speaking tips. So give me 1 or 2 public speaking tips.
Wow. I'll tell you the biggest one. the biggest one is I always go back to if my stomach starts turning and getting the butterflies rolling is, dude, I'm really good at what I do. And that's confidence. That is ultra to the core, unshakable, unwavering confidence. And so usually somebody that's asked you to speak, it's probably because you're pretty smart about what you're going to talk about. It's probably because you might be the expert in your field. And so I always lean back on that and go, man, I could be nervous, but I'd rather the audience be nervous because they're just getting ready to get blown away by what I'm going to give them.
Wow.
And I'm going to, no doubt. And I'm just going to walk up and just be me. I think the other part of it is, I think people have to realize that I just read this in a book, man, and it's stuff that everybody knows, but 7% of what the audience hears are your words, and it's 93%, over 55% of that is your nonverbal body language. And I think if you really start to see that and really start to, as we watch speakers, Joe, as you and I see guys talk, you're more caught up in their body movement and the way they portray themselves and the fact that their chest is out and they're engaged with the audience, and it's almost less about what they're saying and more about how they're conveying it. The other part is, I think in the speaking environment, you have to, and it's within your personality, but you have to be aware that to keep someone's attention, you have to ride them on the roller coaster of emotion. And so as much as you can get really intense, and so I try to, like in my talks, I try to get really intense. I like to make the room completely silent. And then I have to come back down that roller coaster and drop a joke in. And you try to just, again, you keep them laughing, then you give them something really good. Then you keep them laughing, then you give them something really good. And it keeps them engaged. It keeps them almost pretty much on the edge of their seat. But more importantly, it makes them have to really think ahead and stay with you, as opposed to their minds drifting because you're the same monotone across the board. Again, nothing that takes their emotions down one way or another. So those are just some things that I picked up from my dad right away that I guess inherently I've applied, and they seem to work, I guess.
Wow. No, there's no doubt. I mean, this is Sheets Unleashed right here. I love it.
Hey, man, I told you I've been waiting for this. This is good.
This is fantastic. My goodness. How long does it take you to prepare a speech like that?
I don't even write anything down. Wow. I've never written a speech down. I feel like I wouldn't recommend that to anybody. I think I've given enough, and it depends on what I'm speaking on. But if it's a recruiting seminar, it's all off the top of my head. I know where I want to go with it. I know, you've got those cues. I know when I say this, that I'm going to tell this story, and I know that after I tell this bit, I've got to get into this. And so I don't write anything down. But even like as I go back through first pitch dinners and different events that I've had, man, I almost feel like I'm a much better speaker off the cuff, but from the heart. I don't like choreographed things. I don't like scripts. I've had to, it's funny you're talking about the podcast. I've had to go off, start writing my own script, but I sit there and I'm reading it and I'm just completely off. I just start talking off a different sentence, off a different feeling all the time. I don't dig on that. That to me, that just doesn't feel genuine. And I like to make sure that I'm portraying complete transparency, complete from a genuine place, and making sure that I'm connecting with people on a real level. So I know that's completely against what probably some other public speakers would say, but I just don't believe in writing things down. I think that people hear that differently than they do if I'm really getting hardcore and really black and white with somebody.
Well, the lesson there is there's a lot of things to unpack, but one of them that jumps out at me is that it seems like you're doing it off the cuff, but you are getting the Gladwell like 10,000 hours in from when you were a kid. So you heard that, you got to see, you've probably seen more speeches than most human beings. So I think anyone listening to this is saying, I'm going to try that. I'm going to improvise. I'm going to go off the cuff. And there's some value to it. But when I think about your background and what you've told us, you may not even realize how many speeches you've seen.
That's probably, you're absolutely dead on. I love that 10,000 hour analogy, and it makes total sense. You're dead on, man. And so if somebody is thinking about doing that, bullet points, and I've done that in the past. I've just wrote down a few bullet points. Like I had to make sure, because I'm an emotional guy. So if I get rolling, I could easily end the presentation and realize, man, I really wanted to say this and I never got to it. So sometimes I've written just bullet points down, but again, it depends on what you're talking about. But if you are an authority on that information, I think sometimes you just got to step back and trust that you're, and again, if you communicate well, you just got to trust that, man, you're going to go there. You're going to get into it the way that you need to get into it. You're going to get it across the way you should, and just trust your abilities. I mean, that's to me is lesson number one in public speaking. Trust who you are.
Yeah, that's great stuff. I know you mentioned reading. We'll get into that a little bit later. But one of the things that I've been reading lately is a reader and thinker named Derek Sivers. And he has this great little phrase that applies directly to you as I see it, which is normal to you, but unique to others. Or, it doesn't seem amazing to you, but others find it amazing. And when I hear you talking about public speaking, that's one thing. But another thing that jumps out at me is your memory. So you know more people than most human beings, as I can tell from your work on Twitter. And I mean, I don't want to know what kind of memory plan you have on your cell phone, but I want to know what tactics you have for kind of saying, because I'm just gonna guess this here. We haven't talked about this, but I'm gonna guess that it gets your goat when people say, "Oh, I can't remember people's names," because you are an absolute wizard with remembering names, and you make people feel like you've known them their whole life. So I know you're good at it. So when someone says to you, "Oh, I'm not good with names," I know that's not something you like.
I'm going to revert back to your all's episode about the strength finders. This is where this comes into play. You're dead on, man. I mean, you're hitting it on the screws, man. I love that. I love when somebody is like, I'm in a room and they go, "Man, I can't remember that guy's name," and boom, there it is. I love it. What's funny is, my dad, I said, was a public speaker. My dad's terrible with names. And honestly, I think some of it comes from that, because we would go to different places and a bunch of people would run up and want to introduce ourselves. And he'd always go, "Hey, remember that guy's name. I can never remember that guy's name. So when you introduce yourself, make sure you remember it. Come whisper at my ear so I can go, instead of going, 'Hey, buddy,' I can say, 'Hey, Bill.'" And so it made me start to pay attention. But I tell you, one things that I use is a very simple tactic. It's, interpersonal communications 101. Instead of, I think, as when we introduce ourselves to people, we rush to say our name. If you and I were walk up on the street, I'd rush to say, "Hey, man, Jeremy Sheetinger," before you can even say Joe Ferraro. And in fact, we should slow down, take a big deep breath, and let you say Joe Ferraro, so I can go, "Hey, Joe, man, Joe, it's really nice to meet you. My name's Jeremy Sheetinger." And that name is now stuck in my head forever. Wow. I think the other part of it, man, and I'm actually very proud to say this, and I actually probably need to go back and start doing more of this. Every camp that I worked, any showcase that I've ever worked, any recruiting event I've ever worked, I walk up to every person that's a baseball coach and shake their hand, introduce myself, and then more often than not, after the fact, send every person that I met a handwritten note. And I do that so I could remember people's names, but I've also very, very simply, you better understand the power of networking. And you better know that if you are going to go somewhere, especially in our realm, if you're going to go somewhere in coaching, somebody better know who you are, and they better speak well on your behalf. So that's always been something, man, I wanted to do, is make sure that you kind of break down those walls of awkwardness. And again, you're at a recruiting event just like I am. Dude, we're doing the same thing. We're both living in our car, so we might as well get to know each other. Maybe we'll go grab some dinner, and maybe a year from now I see you at the convention and I get to talk to you a little bit. So I think all that is all the same thing, man. It's just networking, and I do get that quite a bit, man, and I love it. I'd like to think that I got 10,000 best friends, because I certainly want someone that I'm talking with to feel like they're the most important person on earth, because inherently, just like you do, I mean, we all want that. We want to make sure that if we're engaging with someone, we're giving them time and information and really divulging some things to them. I want them to feel like their eyes aren't chasing the room, and they're not worried about what's happening 10 minutes from now, that our conversation is pretty important to them. And so I like to think that comes across, man. It is 100% genuine. I think that's what, being a great person's about, is really making people feel better than they did. It's almost like when you take a job, you want to leave it better than you found it. When you meet somebody, I want to leave them a little bit better than they were before I walked up. It's like the gas station attendant, man. You want to make sure that person, just doesn't hear "have a good day," have a great day. You may be the only person that tells them to have a great day. If you really think about it, how just ingenuine that, "How you doing today? Have a good day," and give them something different, something unique.
It's interesting because you just got me thinking about PJ Fleck. I don't know how closely you follow football, but for people, football fans and non-football fans alike, to what he's doing at Western Michigan, I could take that both ways. I can say, could that possibly be authentic? And then I could also say to you, it has to be, because it's so over the top in certain ways.
Sure.
Talk a little bit about that style of coach, and that's not necessarily PJ, but is it possible to kind of have that energy level at all times?
Man, it is. I honestly believe that. There are guys that I think are just engineered differently, and that's not good or bad. I just think that there's coaches that can't get on that level, and they probably shouldn't because it's outside their personality. And that to me is where the barometer is. Man, is what's your personality, and stay true to what your personality is, and don't try not to waver off that. Now we all have good days and bad days, but you watch a dude like PJ, man, that cat is on level 11 every day. And that's hard to fake, man. I mean, as many times as that guy's on stage and in front of people, that's hard to fake. And I think it's just a guy that, honestly, that recognizes that he has he had one of the best opportunities in the country to turn around a program. And again, I don't know what those conversations are between him and his AD and his president, and what their situation is, and how much his budget changed, and all those things. But you'd like to think, man, that if a guy attacks the office and attacks the field like that, man, he's got something special that he believes we could turn this around and go big time. And so that could obviously fire him up. But to me, it really comes back to personality. You think you've got to stay true to who you are and what you're about and what you believe in. And I think that. It's easy, dude. I mean, you're a smart guy, Joe. I mean, it's easy to pick out fakes. It really is. It's not brain surgery, man. You're just like, guys, that's off. But to a guy like PJ, and it's I think it's dead on.
A mistake I made in this interview right now is something I wanted to change, and I'm just going to be fully transparent. We're not even halfway near done talking the plans I have to talk to you, but I want to give people your social media contacts now, because I realize this as a podcast host. I always wait till the end. Well, someone might not be listening all the way to the end. We like to think they are. But sometimes, I don't know if you've ever had this experience. I'm listening to a podcast and I'm like, let me look this guy up. So, you want to push pause and then go to find your Twitter and then come back and say, is this guy as genuine as I think? So send people to where you want them to connect with you online, and then we'll go back to our conversation.
No doubt, man. I do majority of my stuff through Twitter, at Coach Sheets 3. That's I spend the majority of my time on that. Obviously, our Twitter here at ABCA is at ABCA 1945. I'll throw this out there, Joe, if it's worth it, man. My email is sheets, SHEETS at abca.org. And I'll go one step further. My cell phone's 502-767-7680. And I only put that out there because I literally just had a guy call me today, young high school coach from Maryland. Coach, how do I break into college baseball? And wow. I love that, man. I mean, I'm telling you, if anybody can learn from my path, or I can give a lesson or at least a piece of advice that pushes somebody forward where they want to go, take my cell phone, man. Call me, text me. I'll help you out any way I can.
Wow. I just told somebody this the other day. Not a great movie, but a great line in a mediocre movie, The Recruit. The Recruit with Al Pacino.
Sure.
And in it, he says to Colin Farrell, "I'm a scary good judge of talent." And that was my guest booking for today, my man. I mean, this is unreal. I got more to ask you though.
Sure.
So you got Jeremy's cell phone. That's good. Make sure you call him Sheets. That'll make you get to the past it. Wow, you're taking me in a lot of different directions. You said that Coach Fleck was on an 11, but once people go and find you on social media and reach out to you, they're going to find the same as true of you. What is your daily practice that gets you to that 11?
Oh wow, it's a good question. Honestly, if I had to verbalize it, I guess I think you make a decision. I mean, this is going to sound so clear, like it's on the back of somebody's T-shirt, but like you got to make a decision every day. And I think it's so easy to feel like you're getting beat down and feel like, woe is me, and when it rains, it pours, and all those things. But man, I had a good friend of mine, and this is before John Gordon and the energy bus and all that stuff got hot, but we were at a recruiting event, and he said, "Man, you're just one of those guys that is truly an energy fountain and not an energy drain." And that was like 2007 or something. And it really smoked me across the teeth. Like, wow, okay, then if that's the way I'm being then I've got to live up to that, man. Cause I love that. I don't want someone to ever walk away and go, dude, man, you hang around with Sheets long enough, man, you feel like the world's caving in. And you and I both, we have people that we have to deal with that bring that aura and bring that presence and bring that mentality to the table. And so you just start to, and you make a decision that, dude, I'm not about that life. I can't hang out with people like that. That's just not who I'm attracted to. but more importantly, you make a decision every day. And so I use this in recruiting seminars and talks, man. Like some kids, they get out of bed and they bang their knee, and some people, adults, they bang their knee on the side of their bed, and it's 7:45. And for the rest of the day, that's just going to be a crappy day. Like no matter what happens, the shower wasn't hot enough, breakfast wasn't hot enough, traffic stunk, somebody got mad at him at the, whatever it is. And it's just like, man, if you really cut the day into a series of moments, and, getting out of bed's 1, your shower's 2, breakfast is 3, the drive to work's 4, and you start to just like attack these series of moments. And it's just, hey man, let's go, Joe, let's go sexy baseball language, process and results. Like if you really just recognize that the day is nothing but a process, a series of individual moments, and if you just dominate each every one of them, you usually tend to have a pretty good day. But if the fact that you banged your knee at 7:45 is affecting you at 6:30 at night, that's your fault. And obviously that's control the controllables and all that baseball jargon. But man, I like to think that I try to be aware of that. If I ever catch myself in a little bit of a funk, man, the power of the deep breath. I'm a firm believer that you can completely change your mindset, the way your body's functioning by really focusing on your breathing and just stepping back and slowing things down. It's never as bad as you think. It's never as good as you think, but it's never as bad as you think. And just really slow things down and get back to a neutral state and then go from there. But again, it's about chopping into moments and just adding up positive ones so that you have a pretty good day.
What's the coffee consumption look like daily?
You know what? I do 1 coffee in the morning. I'm heavy cream. I'm more of a cream flavored coffee that I have to. Vanilla creamer is my crack. But I go 1 coffee in the morning, water throughout the day, man.
Wow. That's the biggest upset of the interview so far.
I know you're such a food coffee. I didn't want to fall short, but that's reality.
Well, no, I'm more interested in the fact that you got this energy level going natural. I mean, that's almost all natural.
High on life, man, not on drugs.
Love it. I'm going to give
that's on a shirt.
Oh my God. I'm going to give a shout out to 2 of my former students that may or may not be listening. Anna and Jenna, they made a handmade sign that sits in my classroom. It's red and it says, "Be an energy giver." And it's right out of John Gordon's playbook, and now we know it's out of your playbook too.
Well, I mean, it's true. I mean, I think
it's got to be, man. It's unbelievable that, I mean, it is. It's the energy vampire he talks about. And well, let me ask you a question though. What do you do when you come across an energy vampire?
I absolutely bombard them with positive energy.
Do you really?
I'm telling you, dude. I go to an 11 very quickly on that because, and I try to be. That's funny because we're coming to convention and we're going to be shaking hands with thousands of dudes, and I'm gonna get struck with somebody that wants to chew on your ear and go, "Man, this is how bad I've got it. This is I work for a dumb head coach. I'm in a bad situation. I'm in this. I'm in that," and they just want to deposit that on you. And I'm not made of Teflon, so man, you start like hitting it, and you're like, "Oh, dude, I can't hear this anymore." And so I'm a very respectful, very active listener, man. Again, I think that was one of the classes I had in college. It changed my life, was interpersonal communications. And I became very aware of that go-between as a listener and as a talker. And so when somebody's talking to me, man, I'm completely locked in on their eyes. I'm a firm believer in eye contact. And when I start to kind of hear that tone, or they're playing the blame game, or it starts to go a place I know that is almost downhill in a hurry, I cut them off. And I never do that to people, but I cut them off.
How do you do it?
I just jump right in. I just keep talking because they're gonna stop talking. Once you jump in and you keep going, they're gonna stop talking. And it's like, but I always abruptly do it, and then I start pounding them with positive energy, and I always come back to, man, it has been so great to see you, dude. I love you, dude. It's so wonderful to catch up with you, man. I just wish you all the best. If I can do something for you, and you just end it, because it's the decision you make at that time, Joe. And I don't want to get soapboxy, but I mean, am I going to sit there and allow this guy to suck all the energy out of me, or deposit all of his negativity on me? There's no chance, dude. That's no way that's happening. And I'm just going to stop it, put a wall up, go right back at it, fight it, put the cross up and fight the vampire back, and just go, dude, we're going to go a different route on this. I mean, they're going to walk away from you, or I'm going to shut you down.
Oh my goodness. And the reason this is great is because I don't really see a lot of rudeness with you. And I think some of the listeners are thinking, I don't want to be rude. I'm a little bit, I'm too nice to do this. And I mean, we're listening to one of the nicest guys I've met, and you're shutting it down.
Yeah, I think it's a bad read on your part. I think I'm very black and white when I can be. In certain circles, I can be very black and white and to the point. Yeah, no, I agree, and it's like I was talking about earlier, man. It's within your personality, but it really is, man. Do you want to sit there and take it on? Do you want to wear his problems with him, or it's a decision you make? And I 100% go back to, dude. I'm just gonna. That's not what I stand for. It's not what I'm about. I don't like, and I'll lend a sympathetic ear, and I'll probably sometimes an
Yeah.
empathetic ear, dude. I've been there before, but dude, you can't do that to yourself, and I'm not gonna let you do it to me. So I try. If it's a really close friend, man, I always circle it back to, dude, I want better for you, man. Don't let yourself go down that path, man. That's not good for you, and it's not good for your mindset. And again, I almost wish I've had moments, you've had moments. I wish somebody would have grabbed me at 25 and circled me back to the right path. So you just try to step in and be a facilitator, move them a different direction, and if you can't do it, you move a different direction.
Wow. Let's
Yeah.
talk productivity. You are one of the more productive people I've observed, at least online. And with the convention coming up, I mean, just squeezing in an hour with me is fantastic. I thank you for that. What fill in the blank? What the tool that I can't live without is?
Oh, I love to say my phone. I mean, that's where I get all my work done, man. I hate to say that I'm addicted to it, but I got to have it with me. I think shoot, man, I could go cliche on you, but I'm not going to do that to you. I respect you too much to do that. I gotta have my phone. I mean, I do everything from emails to text. I text a lot, make a lot of different calls, but that's obviously that's where Twitter's at. That's where all those things are at, and that's where I find myself majority of times catching breaks and either canning tweets or following up on different things or putting stuff out, but more importantly, staying in touch. I think one of my biggest strengths that I'm very proud of is I really look to communicate and reach out to people a lot, and I need to do more of that. There's people that cross your mind, and I always say I'm going to text that guy, and a couple days go by and he calls me, and it's like, shoot, man, I meant to text you 2 days ago. I'm so sorry. So I think that's the biggest tool has been that communication piece. I mean, I think that's the nature of my job, man, is the ability to communicate and connect with guys, and that's why the phone becomes so important.
How do you refill your tank?
Sleep. No, man, I think it refills. I don't know, man. I must have a gas pump in my bedroom, man. It refills every night. I like to again go cliche, man, but I think I'm charged with a pretty strong ambition. So I think, and that's what I ride. I mean, it's like I ride that lightning every day because I know where I'm trying to go. I got a plan. I got a strong work ethic. I think I'm willing to sacrifice more than others, and I'm willing to do more than others, and I refill that every day because again, I'm not where I want to be. I'm not to the point or made the impact that I really want to make, and so you got to show up the next day, man. It's like when you get another opportunity, you better show up and be ready because you never know when it's going to call.
Wow. And are there times where you have to reach out to movies or TV or a book to recharge the batteries to kind of get that creative fix, or do you go in a different direction?
I go a different direction, man. I usually connect with mentors or guys in my life that I truly respect, and I do that quite often, man. I call on various guys in the baseball community or various guys in my life that I think their words are gold, and really kind of just not empty out my thoughts, but just kind of like, man, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm thinking, and am I off on this? Am I, when I can feel myself spiraling a little bit. And lean on those people. I was just telling you before we got going, I'm really my next real move in my life to grow and develop is I'm going to read a heck of a lot more than I'm doing it right now, and I need to make time for it. I've got a 11-month-old at home, and so obviously that transition's been its own, and Coop is my life and my way. But at the same time, when he goes to bed, that could be some time for me that I'm not taking full advantage of. So I certainly want to answer that question a couple months from now and say that I'm diving into books. I'm diving into some stuff that I'm growing, developing with. But for right now, it's been, really leaning on the experience of others that I respect.
You have a list that you're waiting to attack, or are you looking for recommendations?
I'm waiting for I would love recommendations. I've got a list, but I would love to hear what.
Okay.
You
Well,
have.
what kind of things are you looking for?
I love anything that is like, for instance, a book I just bought in the airport is The Exceptional Presenter. And so I'm very confident in my ability to speak in front of groups, but this is like, again, if I can get better at that, why wouldn't you pursue it? If there's some chapter in there that really strikes me that I can apply to how I speak in front of groups, that would be, I love leadership books. I love any type of really like the book like Outliers, books like that really show, man, there's almost like here's the success patterns of really successful people. So are you doing these things? If you're not, and what are you complaining about?
Yeah.
Those type of books.
So a couple of things jump out at me there. One is you talked about our Strength Finders episode on KWB Radio and episode 38. One of my most fun episodes to do with Kev because, you know, it taught me some things. And what it taught me was that we think strengths are things you're good at. It seems obvious. But what I learned in the research is strengths are things that empower you and strengthen you in addition to that. So you're reading that book on presenting, and the reality of the situation is you're already strong at that, but you're still staying in that strength zone. So when we teach young kids, and you know some of the people listening will be, you know, trying to find their way, they think they got to work on their weaknesses, and that's a piece of it. But you know, strengths are things that when you work in them, they strengthen you. So you're reading about presenting, you're just sharpening the blade.
I love it. It's good to know. High five on that one.
Scott Birkin did a book called Confessions of a Public Speaker, which is a great one.
Wow.
That's something in your strength zone there, so I can send that to you. That's Scott Birkin on Twitter as well. Pretty good follow. The Slight Edge and the Compound Effect are two in the exact same neighborhood of what I'm trying to do with 1% Better. You know, I mean, you can almost hear it by the name, right? The Slight Edge, and it's exact same concept. So those are two big ones. I think I actually did the Slight Edge on audio, and it aligns so perfectly with what I'm trying to do here.
That's awesome. You know, those I'm writing them down as we talk.
Yeah.
Those are.
Well, I have notebooks all around me. I just given myself permission to do that too. So go for it, man.
That's cool. That's awesome.
What do you think about the 1% Better project in terms of does it align with your philosophies? Because I have a vision of what I want to do, but I'm still trying to figure this thing out as well and impact as many people as I can.
No, 100%, man. We were traveling out to on one of our barnstormer clinics when you texted me, and we were going back and forth like, hey man, can I add you to this list? And I'm, yeah, Joe, let's check it out. And you sent a couple things over, and then I've listened to, you know, I know more about wine now based on 1%
Yes.
Better. I actually could not wait to tell somebody the story of the video with your guy from Oregon, Chip Kelly, talking about the bamboo plant. I could not wait. I watched that morning, and I could not wait to tell somebody. So the minute that I had the opportunity, I had Eric Newman from UC San Diego, and he was telling me a story about when he coached Kyle Zobrist and how much of a hard worker he was, and he was so consistent, and that's why he's made it in professional baseball, because he's consistent. And he was talking about trusting the process, and I literally cut him off. And I'm telling you, I never do that. And I go, Eric, can I tell you this story? Like, my buddy Joe just sent this, and you have to hear this.
Wow, I got some airspace there with California.
Absolutely. I'm trying to spread the great word, man. That's the least I could do.
I appreciate it.
And dude, he was like, I've never heard that, but man, can I not wait to tell that to my team, because it's a true appreciation for, are you really investing in the process, and are you just worried about results, or do you know where you're going and where you're going to end up? And it's a pure example of the bamboo plant, man. I love it. No, I think you're on the certainly the right path. And I think, you know, it's one of those things, Joe, like even when you got into KWB radio, and just no different, we got in our podcast, I think the path starts to reveal itself after a while.
Yeah, it does.
The more that you're really into it, and you're investing yourself and your soul into it, and you're really kind of giving, almost like, and this is going to sound weird, but giving yourself to the project, I think eventually that path opens up, and it's going to take its course, the direction it's meant to go. You're definitely onto something that I think people need, people want. And you're not giving us a book to read at a time. You're giving us a video. You're giving us a clip. You're giving us a 2-minute quick thing that I'm listening to driving to Thanksgiving dinner. Like, man, I got to get some wine. Like, I know what to go buy now. But you're giving us things like that. It's really good, man.
You did your show research, man.
Hey, just a little bit, man. I pay attention.
You know what? It can sound corny, but the reality is, think about it. So Chip Kelly, great coach who I've never met, says this awesome thing that he got from someone. I share it to my followers, and it gets to you. You give it to a coach in San Diego, and he turns around and tells his team. So in that really silly way, we're making that dent in the universe.
That's it. I mean, the impact. It's all residual effect, man. I mean, I like let's sum up the entire conversation. Like, we're all going to have a residual effect on people, and it's all dependent on what do you want that effect to be, man. What do you really, honestly, what do you really want to be known for? What do you want your legacy to be? And I certainly just like you do, man. I want to know that I made a positive impact on people, right, wrong, or indifferent. I worked my process and I left a positive impact, whatever that is. And so I think you're certainly doing that with the 1% better. And yeah, you know, I'm loyal. I'm loyal to the core, man. I love where you're going with it, and love helping it out in any way that I can.
I appreciate that, man. In our closing minutes, I want to just kind of jump around a little bit with
Sure.
some quick fire questions. And with the thing with that is you don't have to go short answer, but I just want to give you some short questions. So
I don't own a short answer.
there we go. You said you wanted to be a high school English teacher at one time. What book or what concepts would you be bringing to the classroom if you did that?
Oh, I would be bringing. I think the ability to write. Like I think I would be. I'd be a great writing coach and writing teacher. I think the concept for me is I think sometimes when we go to do those things, we don't just trust our imagination and trust our words. I think sometimes writer's block for the person that's not a very good writer is really just fear. And you're just getting in your own way, and you're just making yourself believe that you can't do it. And really you can, because we all think inside our minds, we think deep, we think broad, and it's a way for you to just kind of cut that wall down and go full fledged. And you start to realize, man, I can't write because I'm just releasing what's between my ears. So I think that was why I originally loved English and wanted to get involved. I didn't appreciate reading British literature, and that's why I changed to sports management really quick. That showed me my path really fast.
Your bio says you've worked camps in 26 states. I have a feeling that's even increased. But what's the dream travel destination for Sheets?
Oh man, actually that number's like 33 right now. I love the West Coast. I do. I love California. I love San Diego. I think if any trip to San Diego, I would sign off on right now just to be a bartender at Chili's. I mean, I do, man. I love that area. I could live there. I put my toes in the beach every day and never wear a sweatshirt. I'd sign off on it right now.
Oh my God. What, no shirt and tie out there?
Never. None of them.
Wow. Ted Williams never wore a shirt and tie, so it's good enough for you.
Exactly.
Love it. Oh my God. What would you do? I mean, outside of the world of baseball, if someone told you couldn't be involved in baseball, you're going back to the classroom?
That's a good question. I don't know, man. I don't honestly know. I think, I've had some sales opportunities. Guys have called. I think I could be good at that, but I don't know if I'd make some money, but I don't know if I'd be thoroughly fulfilled by that. I could just be public speaking, man. I would figure out I'd come up with some niche, some book, something that would. I love being in front of people, man. I cannot. My biggest high is speaking to a group of people and really catching that, almost that runner's high. But that moment where, dude, you just go unconscious and you're speaking from the heart and you're rolling and you've got the room. They're in the palm of your hand. Like, to me, there's no better moment. I'd probably just go speaking full time.
Wow. Give me two or three, or maybe one or two public speakers you admire.
Oh man, I think one of the biggest ones that probably really struck me just on how passionate and how direct. And it's not a public speaker. All my idols are baseball coaches. But if you've ever heard Tim Corbin talk, I mean, the guy is the most prepared guy in the room. He's the most thorough person in the room. He's also a great quote that hit me over the weekend is you have to have an ego to realize you got to let your ego go. And he certainly knows and believes in his ability as a baseball coach, but he hasn't bought, the secret sauce to know that he can learn from anybody. And that's the first guy up in the front row taking notes. And so when he talks, when he gives a presentation, he's put so much thought, so much passion into it. I think one of the other public speakers that I've seen, and it's another baseball coach, is Dennis Rogers from Riverside City. And he's a guy that not a lot of guys know, but if you'll see him in Anaheim, he'll speak. But man, I've had a chance to be around him and watch this guy talk, and he is the most thorough speaker and is a constant stream of consciousness. I mean, his thoughts, there's no there's no breaks, there's no nothing, because he knows his material that well. And that's where, again, I go back to, he's so confident in his ability to speak on baseball and on the topic that he's talking about, that's where I want to be. I want to be so educated, so thorough, no ego, but also so confident and so prepared that it just comes off clean as can be.
Wow. Let's say we're talking to someone who is recently unemployed. What's your advice to them? And they're just lost right now. They have no direction. They just lost their job, which they thought was the dream job. What do you tell that person?
Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Get off your back. I mean, I know it's so direct, but dude, I'm a firm believer in that. Like, I've fallen down plenty of times, man. And you look back, sometimes you stay down for a couple minutes. But you give the boxing analogy, man. I mean, you can get knocked down 10 times, but if you get up the 11th, you're a winner. And so guys, in situations that happens, and I've had friends out there that's happened to, and sometimes they spiral downward for a little bit. But when you realize that, man, it happens and it's part of it, but it's actually, it doesn't define you. It just created an opportunity for you to respond. And it's like no different than any adversity we face. It is truly the response, not necessarily the reaction. And so, somebody in that situation, just, you got to jump off, you got to get your hands back into something. And it doesn't have to, a lot of baseball coaches were in that realm where they're starting to lose their jobs based on performance. And what you realize is, man, if you are a good coach and you're in just a bad situation and it happened, you just got to get back into coaching, get into somewhere else. Maybe it's taking a job down a level. If you're working in business and you just lost your job, but you really believe in your ability as a salesman or a business person, you got to jump right back in on some level and just know that it'll end up working itself out. But I think certainly the pity party, man, it doesn't stay for long, man. You could have that party for a year. That's up to you. But I think the quicker that you blow out the candle and jump right back in, I think the more obviously you're going to be in a much better situation.
Wow. I'll end our conversation with like we're on a job interview. What questions do you have for us? What questions do you have for me, Sheets?
I think, Joe, the one thing is, in listening to you, and really I feel like I've gotten to know you through podcasts, but what I love about obviously you've got a gift with words, man. You are a wordsmith to the core, and what I love about that is, do you see yourself getting outside the classroom? I know you do a great job coaching and love teaching and all that, but if you were to get outside the classroom, where could you see? What are your limits? Where do you see yourself if you were in a different situation?
3 times this week, actually, someone said to me that I should be doing my own radio show or some play-by-play of baseball games. So the secret dream is I really do feel like I could do play-by-play, and I'd love to. I mean, let's face it, with the podcast, you and I have a radio show. So It's just about reaching more people, getting more opportunities, honing the focus, going that way. So if I left the classroom, it's got to be for something in the world of communications. I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with communication. It means a lot that you said I'm a wordsmith, because I try to communicate precisely. And tell you the truth, you gave me the 11 today, and I'm being more passive than usual, and I love it. It's like Kevin gives me a lot of airtime, and today it's like, man, I did exactly what I wanted to accomplish, which was shine the spotlight on you. But in communication, I think there's some real opportunities for problem solving. And I would say like that cross section between problem solving and communication is my passion.
Yeah, you can hear that honestly when I'm because I sit in your seat, and so when I listen to you interview somebody, and you and Kevin, I can hear your hamster going. Like I honestly can. Because then I start seeing where you're going with the next question, how you're trying to connect the dots, and you're almost trying to, just like we all do, man. You try to pull that next level of information out, and I can hear you talking your way towards it. Certainly, man, I'm telling you, you're gifted in a lot of, and this isn't just pub, man. You're gifted in a lot of different regards. I think another question I would ask you, man, because I'm always interested in learning, is in all the people you've dealt with and talked with and the lessons learned along the way, what are the things that jump off to you? Like, what are for instance, we were talking about earlier, what are the habits? What are the mindsets of really successful people that you've dealt with or come across or read about? That, again, we're talking about making ourselves 1% better. Just divulge that information to start.
They have somewhere they want to be. They have somewhere they want to be. Even quite literally, they're usually fast walkers. It's funny because I watch people walking like they have nowhere to be. Whether it's a student of mine or whether it's a faculty member, you're just walking and you have nowhere to be. There's nowhere for you to be. So the successful people are literally walking faster. And they're focused, And I think another thing that I've gotten better with, and the successful people that I see do it without fail, is they have a routine. They have a morning routine. It's not let's wake up and see where the day takes us. That was the illusion we were all sold. It's like, let me wake up tomorrow whenever I want to wake up, see where the day takes me, put on sweats. I mean, I don't know if that's the liaison job description, but for me, it's about scripting it the night before. And I actually started my classroom with that this year. I said, what's the one thing that 90% of high performers do in the morning? And not a student got it right, but I wouldn't expect them to. We wouldn't have known at 17. But
Sure.
we talked about it. They have a routine. It's not that there's one routine. They have a routine. And we actually used examples like Michael Phelps listens to the exact same rap album every day. In the pool at the same time. And you know what he says? He said that he collects wins before 6 a.m. So a big move I made, and it seems silly, but I went to black coffee because I was drinking 2 cups of coffee before I got, not to take a shot at your cream, but I was drinking 2 cups of coffee before I got to work, and I had cream and sugar. So I have 2 losses before I even got to school. So I collected 2 wins by switching to black coffee. And Phelps at the highest level, he now knows if I wake up at 5 and I don't hit the snooze, that's a win. And I get into the shower at 5:15 instead of 5:20, that's a win. And I get in the car and I have my iPod charged, that's a win. And I get in the pool at this time, and that's a win. So he's collected more wins by 9 a.m. than most people will all day.
That I just digested, and I love it.
You know what I mean?
Really good.
We're collecting wins. It's just so many small wins, and it actually circles all the way back to what you said earlier about breaking up the day, segmenting the day,
Sure.
and just having a sense of purpose. In the open of the show, I said, you're a guy that lives life on purpose. I don't know if this quote has been copyrighted, but I'm thinking about this idea recently of don't let Mondays happen to you. And I think people just let Sunday blues, and Monday happens to you, and all of a sudden, you're not prepared for it. And I don't see that. One of the things that attracted me to you was you seem like you're attacking the day, and anyone who listened this long knows that that's true. And I think that's the number one thing is they have somewhere to be.
Yeah, no, well, there's no doubt about it, man. I as you said that, I went, man, I don't even think in terms of Mondays, honestly, because you hear that all the time. If you guys watch Office Space, case the Mondays, but I don't think that way. I think it's a brand new work week, man. I've got 5 days to crush it this week. I mean, I've got 5 days to get accomplished all the things in my mind that I know I want to get accomplished. And you're dead on, man. It is certainly having a routine and being just. I love the fact of collecting wins, man. I've got to apply that tomorrow morning. Like I want to start on that path because it certainly is. And now you've got me convinced and motivated to knock out cream. Somehow, some way, I've got to try to chug this black coffee.
Now, let me just stop you there for a second and say it's not good. Black coffee makes you realize that you may not like coffee as much as you like cream. Because right now, one of the reasons on KWB we talk so much about coffee is I'm on a search for the best coffee because I'm questioning, do I like coffee or did I like cream and sugar?
So I'm in your category.
So don't go nuts here. I mean, what I will do is send over some coffee to you that I have had some success with, and then you try it black and you go from there. But don't go cold turkey like I did it. I would not recommend that.
Great advice.
You know what I want to tell you? We're going to close soon, but one of the things I want to say is as long as we're talking about wins and there could be a 1%, collecting wins handout coming out soon. That sounds like a pretty good idea. But
no brainer.
New Year's. I don't know if you're a resolution guy, but here's a free recommendation for you and anyone else who's stuck around this long. The one word concept. I don't know if you've kind of dove into that.
Oh.
One word is pretty big. You can find it on Twitter, and I actually again a lot of the things I do in the podcast, I got to go ahead and give it to my kids in the classroom because I'm loving my life in the classroom, and if I can impact high school seniors with some of the stuff we talk about on podcasts, my goodness,
Sure.
Talk about collecting wins. So they're ready to do New Year's resolutions. They say, well, the last week of December in school, we're going to talk about one word, and what you do is you pick one word that's going to drive your entire next year, in this case, 2017. So I've done it 3 years running, and each year you choose a different word that's going to be kind of the focus. And full disclosure, a few years ago, my word was permission. And what I wanted to tell myself was, I got to stop. I used to listen to 2 podcasts a day. I still do, but I never did a podcast. So my word that year was permission. In other words, stop waiting for permission from somebody and do a podcast. If you listen to 2 of them a day, you've listened to more podcasts than most humans.
Sure.
So my year was great, and that was the year we launched the podcast.
Wow.
Permission.
How about that?
Permission.
I like that a lot. I'm not a big resolution guy. It just that's not the way my mind works. But I think, one thing, if you are giving this to your high school seniors, and this is really tough to do, at 18. It's much easier to do when you're as old as we are. But I always go back to, I always like to take just, and again, it might be like 2 minutes, it might be 10 minutes, it might be an hour, but usually it's over the course of time. I like to constantly evaluate almost daily, but almost go back to, man, who was I a year ago? What were the thoughts, and what were the motives, and what were the ideas, what were the, the good and the bad of where I was even just a year ago? Where was I 5 years ago? And go, kind of work your way back. Like, man, look how far you've come. Look at what you've grown into. Look at where you're at. Who am I right now? And then where am I getting ready to go tomorrow? And I think, I honestly think of that way. And so that's why I don't go back to a resolution, because I think I'm constantly in that state of, evaluation. I think that's just, I'm engineered that way as a coach, man. I'm in that constant evaluation. But more importantly, I think for, like you said, a high school senior, it's, reflect on who you were when you walked in here first day out of 8th grade. When you walked in day one freshman year, who was that skinny 13-year-old, 14-year-old punk? And who are you sitting here at 18? And how confident are you in the things that you've learned in 4 years? Okay, that's great. Now, as you embark on this next journey, which is when life really happens, who are you getting ready to be? And who are you getting ready to turn into? And where's that going to go? And where's that going to take you? And certainly that's not just as most resolutions last a month. Where is that really going to take you? I think I try to constantly be in that evaluation mode, so I never come out of that change, that resolution. I'm always just trying to move this a step forward each day, but I'm moving towards where I want to go, and I also give time to reflect on where I've been. If that makes sense.
It does. I mean, for me, this conversation is mission accomplished. I unleashed Sheets. There's no doubt you added value. For anyone who listened to it to say that they didn't get 1% better from this, or they couldn't now go back and listen and implement something tomorrow, I think they're lying to themselves. And even though the conversation went in different directions, exactly where I wanted it to be. Anything else you want to touch on before we say goodbye?
No, I just, the last thing I wanted to add, and we were going to talk about, we talked a little bit about earlier, is I think a governing mission is just be willing to do what others won't. And I think you'd be shocked at what other people aren't willing to do. And that to me is work ethic. I think if you're willing to put in the extra hours, if you're willing to, do the things that others won't, you're going to already be steps ahead. And again, where you want to go is really what you're willing to sacrifice. So there's relationships or sometimes friendships, but sometimes it's just free time. But I mean, seriously, if you're going to talk about going somewhere and being something special, Michael Phelps doesn't have a whole lot of free time.
No,
because if that's really, you want to be part of the 1% group, and you really want to be completely different than everybody else, which most people say they do, but actions are everything. And so I think you start to really divulge inside of your real thoughts of where you want to go and what you're willing to sacrifice to get there. I think it really becomes apparent that there's a lot more that we all could be doing. And the decision is, are you going to do it or not?
Yeah. When you interview a fellow podcast host, you I didn't even have to tee up, because one of the questions I was thinking about asking earlier was, do you have a mantra that you live by? And without even saying it, be willing to do what others won't. Yep. Sheets, I got better today, man. I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. I got better too, just being on here with you. I really do appreciate the time and the opportunity.
Give that Twitter handle one more time on the way out.
At Coach Sheets 3. Come find me. Love to engage with you, catch up, and connect on some level. Appreciate that.
Sheets the extrovert with us on 1% Better today. I really appreciate it. I'm at Ferraro on air. Thank you so much for joining us on 1% Better.